now.
Christian.
There goes Tony, Rose, Raymond, Dean, and Bob. Okay. Welcome. And there's just a tiny group of us, so I do really hope we're going to be contributing and interacting and sharing, because that's what works the most. That's what's happening and is so highly appreciated in our Zoom meetings, because, there are people who share what helps, what works with them, for them, and that really resonates with others. And when they see that amongst the group there is it's not just one speaker who gets it, because there is no one ever who can get it, but there are people who, to different degrees, their life has already been transformed and their suffering has already been eased, even through little things like, in the midst of turmoil, remembering that, hey, this is not happening right now. In the midst of a story or a drama that, I lost my job, or I lost my partner, or I lost my someone, this is not happening right now. Little pointer. People have little pointers that really bring home the realization that this is a dream. This is the what do you call it? Daydream. When I dream, it's apparently it's a Mother's Day in Australia. It's not in Poland. In Poland, it's another 3 weeks or so, or 2 weeks, whatever. But everyone who is planning to see their mothers, the planning process is really a fantasy. It's not what's happening right now. It's a wonderful functional fantasy. There's nothing wrong with those wonderful functional fantasies. I think about my mother, and then that thought causes me to call her, and that's a wonderful daydream. So the daydream of thinking and planning becomes a waking dream of speaking on the phone, which is again not happening right now. So all those little things that people share amongst each other, bringing back what is happening, prioritizing and putting the heart into what is happening, rather than dwelling on what is not happening. Just for the heck of it, check if we are audible.
I remember back a few years ago, it was a bit cold out there. The life doesn't bother to come.
Yeah, you want to say it out loud? No?
Just mentioning that remember a few years ago here. Just a few years ago here, whenever it's a bit chilly in Melbourne, like the life doesn't bother to come to Bob's. this is reminding me of the old days. Got very busy in the last few years, but it reminds me of the old days.
Yeah, who knows? It may happen this way, that, one day, because Zoom meetings are so easy. During COVID, when we had to shut down due to lockdowns, we had to shut down the groups. We used to have groups at home 3 times a week. It never came back to what it was. On the weekdays, on the Tuesdays, Thursdays, people couldn't be bothered traveling at night after work in the evenings if they could just click on the link on a website and join in on Zoom. So we never got back to the home gatherings. And, if people won't be bothered coming here as well, that may just transition naturally to Zoom, or it may die down. Who knows? It's up to life what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. I'm still quite busy with individual meetings, so if the gatherings are there, wonderful, because that is a beauty of the community, of just, assisting each other and just expressing and reflecting the appreciation for the reflection. That is, and reminding each other that this isn't really, it isn't really a dreadful situation where we are mitigating or controlling psychological suffering and trying to get out of the dunk and the madness of darkness, but reminding each other that really what Bob often starts with, you are already that. You already know that you are. That was Bob's mantra. He wasn't even introduced to non-duality when he was with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and it wasn't even transcendental meditation yet. It was some spiritual regeneration movement back then, a small group, and he was given a mantra, Soham, that I am, or I am that I am that. So that is often when Bob starts the meetings. Everybody knows that they are. Everybody knows that I am. I am that I am. This is a common knowledge. And this is a knowledge which isn't really a bad news on which we should just dwell in our misery. This is a beautiful start point. You are already life essence, animating everything, including the thought patterns and forms, including the dramas, including the resistance to what's happening, how is it happening, including the self-obsession, the constant narrative that, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not slim enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not whatever it is that I am not, is still the voice, is still the expression of that one life essence, transformed through the patterns, transformed through conditioned personality patterns, but expressing the same loving care. You know, like if there was a voice saying that I'm not enough, that didn't care, why would it even bother saying it? And what is it that hears the voice? What is that space-like awareness, that consciousness that is aware of that self-obsessive narrative? That one is that space is that which never changes. And the narrative comes and goes in it. And even if it doesn't go, even if it's yapping all the time, the content of it is constantly changing, but the hearing is the same. The listening, the being, that space in which it is known, the cognizing emptiness is always the same. And this is all, we all share it. There is no separation in that. Everybody is aware that they are, and everybody is aware of whatever the content, the changing content is, and that awareness is equal. I had, funny enough, a couple of conversations over the last week, probably more than that, with people who I used to be really strongly associated in India. And India, my first guru, who is a beautiful man who is still providing absolutely wonderful service, but in a different role, in a different function. And there is a beautiful man, also Indian origin, here in our city, who provides very similar service. And that's a service which is obviously bringing other type of people that gravitate and resonate with that. So the function of a guru, just like a function of a pope or a priest, or the function of a leader of the community, leader that I know something you don't know, and I'll tell you. If you struggle with finances or with relationships, I'll help you, I'll show you, and I will translate it for you from the spiritual perspective. I translated some books to Polish language from that guru of mine in India. I absolutely loved it. That you could look at the relationship from the standpoint of just what's in it for me, and from the standpoint, yeah, I'm the life giving itself to myself. What a different way of looking at things. And because Bob did not really ever assume that role, he was only interested in pure non-duality, which is a standpoint which necessarily rejects all the position of leadership or all the position of I know something that you don't and I will tell you. That's what I'm drawn to do here, and I hope this is forever going to be this way. There's no one superior, there's no one inferior, there's no one who knows better how to run the life of your body mind than the life essence expressing through that. And if there is a question, or if there is a need for a mentoring or guidance or therapy or counseling, well, life will find the way to provide it. But this is not what this group is about here. It is about the recognition of inherent non-separation, therefore inherent equality of everyone. Bob wasn't superior to anyone, even though his level of psychological suffering comparably to anyone else was non-existent. So it was but even if there is any psychological suffering, it's just imagined, and it can easily be seen through, and it may persist out of the habit, but again recognized as the perpetuated behavior that is happening within the emptiness, the cognizing emptiness, makes it lose its sting. The sting of it is no more, even if that drama is ongoing. The court case or the loss of the relationship or the loss of a job is ongoing. Now, this is what is happening on the screen. This is not about me. This is not for me or to me. It is happening within that which I am. It loses its sting. And there is no promise in non-duality that the body will never get sick again, the body won't get old, the body won't die, or there won't be displeasure associated with whatever, losing your pet or losing your spouse or losing anyone. There won't be a displeasure associated with hunger or cold. Of course, whatever that body-mind mechanism is conditioned to experience in life is gonna be experienced in a way that is dualistic. The cold and the hot, the pleasure and the pain, the nausea and the joy, and it's just like every other living creature, just like every other body in the manifested world. And this is what I loved about the clarity of Bob's pointing. Look at the nature. Does the dog look irritated when you step on its tail? Bet it does. So it's absolutely natural to experience irritation when someone stops at your toe or tail or whatever.
Shall we try it?
Audio is clear. You want to try?
Stefan.
Yeah, you wish. Yeah. Go for it.
I don't have anything to say except I would try to step on your toe. Does anyone else? No. So, all right, so the meeting starts with Bob's, it was always like, start with the fact that you're already that. And you spoke about that and spoke about the sense of presence and undeniable for everyone. But what is that? What really is, everything is that and nothing is that. What is the thatness that is, because if you start from that fact or recognize that, then the message or whatever we're talking about is a vibration, it's energy, it permeates, it moves. But if you don't, then, well, you're a different, you're a separate person trying to understand some ideas, and it's just like it. And that may help in some level. I have no idea, because all I can say is that I know nothing at all. There is no nothing. The nothingness is that. And that is this. This is the appearance. And in that appearance there's a body, there's a hand, there's a word coming out of the mouth. There's apparent interactions, there's teaching, there's lessons, there's above, there's below, there's a room, there's cars. And apparently there's a world, and then there's a universe beyond the earth. And all these things, like every night, they're just obliterated. Like there's nothing at all. They're like that. People are scared of dying and people are scared of this. But every single night, the whole system, the whole show, circus, manifestation, call it whatever you want, it's gone, empty, finished. And then all of a sudden it comes into existence again. And then, sometimes, like, it's amazing just watching it come into existence. What is actually coming into existence? if you break it down into little frames, and there's no little frames because there's no even time, but for the sake of like trying to explain something, imagine there's little frames, and all of a sudden there's a leg, and and then there's a torso, and then there's a head, and there's a thought that I am, or that this is, or that there's a dean, a body in a bed, or whatever. There's a room, and then it's like you can break it down into the frames of a movie, and just see each individual frame. But then that's a spontaneous explosion where everything seems to appear at once. And then, that's me in a world having a life. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. It's a great story. And then the stories about me having a life, a better life, a worse life, a suffering life, trying to get out of it, trying to get into it, trying to find it, lose it, fix it, repair it, change him and her and the world and everything around. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's magnificent. It's fantastic in the way that it's like, sometimes I call it a circus because it's like such a comedy act. It's a cosmic joke because to think that there's this volition, there's a separate little entity behind the eyes usually or wherever, who's making decisions, who's making things better, who's striving, who's fixing, who's, growing and improving and sharing and whatever, or getting into trouble and mischief, or whatever. Like there's no little controller. There's no puppeteer. There's no one moving the arm like by a string, making it go up and down and moving the jaw like this and making it speak words. There's no controller of it. Everything seems as though it's just this incredible spontaneous eruption of everything, and in that everything is contained, and all the stories and all the circus and all the dreams and the universes and parallel worlds and mystical realms and teachers and Buddhas and Jesuses and the whole friggin' manifestation and anything more that's conceivable beyond all that appears, and there's no one making it. It's not appearing for anyone. It's just an appearance, and in that appearance, for most people, it seems that there's a seeming sense of a separate body in a world with other separate people navigating with free will and choice and living a life, and that's just that's the expression appearing in that particular pattern of energy appearing in that manner of me and you and him and her and up and down and high and better and mathematics and physics and theology and biology and everything. But that's the energy expressing. That's the nothing. That's the thatness that Bob starts the meeting with. Start with the fact that you're already that. And that is that, expressing as all these things that I just described and the things that everyone can describe constantly. That is the thatness. But it's not. But I think the problem is, isn't it? The energy of belief somehow seems to go into those particulars and make some, but nothing can make anything actually. So no one's making that happen, and no one's making a seeming energy of belief make something more real than it is, or it isn't. So no one's actually lost. No one's actually needs fixing or changing or improving. The great perfection is, well, Bob used to always say, like, this is the absolute. Another way of describing that is the absolute. And can you take anything away from the absolute? Can you add anything to the absolute? I mean, this is the display, the array, the whole show, the kit and caboodle, and there's no way in it or out of it, because it is that. That is that. Like that is that. There's no. You can argue. You can. There's psychological suffering, whatever. Apparently, but that's another description of the energy appearing as psychological suffering. That is that appearing and described and labelled as psychological suffering. I reckon. I don't know. I think it's probably just shut up for now and just like throw the mic, throw the mic in the air and just celebrate. Because really, like, what else are we can talk about ways of getting that, but like, I don't know, you say something profound and interesting after.
I'm actually going to say something really interesting, because you actually beautifully answered the question that it's not a question, really, kind of a question, kind of a comment that we got from our online community, from Gilbert. And the question says, what is wrong about right now if you do not talk about it? A simple signpost just points. It does not explain any details. Probably a typo. And of course, that was a brilliant answer to Gilbert, because of course to everyone, because I do assume, Gilbert, that you know that by now, that there is no one speaking. If speaking happens, then obviously that's what happens, just like bird singing. If the bird sings, that's what's happening. If speaking happens, that's what's happening. And yes, there are some ideas that, things should be said differently or run differently, or there should be no speaking happening. Those ideas are to be questioned, and those are delusions that are very, very easily to be discarded if you really look, if there is anyone with the choice to speak or to not speak, to show up or not to show up, to run the meeting in particular way or not. This is an invitation for everyone to actually just expand the sense of liberation from the thought, from believing mind. Because if the mind says, oh, this is wrong, well, obviously, there's nothing wrong unless you think about it. And Nisargadatta's beautiful pointer to ultimate freedom is that there is nothing wrong anymore. So if there is anything perceived as wrong, conspiracy theory, climate change, vaccination, the way the meetings are run, anything, the way people speak or not speak, the amount of silence, a proportion, that is a beautiful, just say to life, thank you. I'll have a look. I'll have a look again and again, and see if there's any doer of any of it. Because if I mouth the words and say, oh, there is no doer here, but there are doers out there, well, obviously clean the projector. Because ultimate truth is, life run by itself. There is one essence, appearing and expressing as every single pattern. There is no doer anywhere. Even if you believe there are doers out there who should speak or stop speaking or should do that or the other, well, again, clean the projector. It's the projector that projects the world full of everything being wrong. There is a possibility of seeing the dream for what it is, the dream in which there is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with the fact that there is high tide, the tsunami, the volcano, the Holocaust. Anything that happens in the dream is the way the dream unfolds dualistically, and it has to unfold this way. There has to be winter, there has to be night, there has to be day, there has to be summer. All of it is just as it is. No puppeteer, like Dean was saying. The world is appearing. No one have a clue. If someone tells you, I know, there's no doer here, but there are doers there, and they should stop speaking, they should do this, well, again, invitation. The intelligence of life is just inviting itself to expand that sense of freedom. There may be some limited freedom from particular idea, every idea that is discarded, idea that I should be vegan, for example, or idea that I should be whatever. If that idea is recognized as just a thought, there is already more freedom. But how about the freedom from all ideas? How about realizing that every idea appearing in the mind is just a thought, and it's just appearing on the screen and space like awareness, and there is no one who needs to defend that thought, there's no one who needs to follow that thought, believe that thought, subscribe to it. It's just a passing cloud on the sky, and there is no one. You are the sky. You are that no thing. You are that, or that you are, the pure presence, the Satchitananda. Then,
And that is total freedom. Like, that's total boundlessness. Not only is there no doer, there's no non-doer either. The whole idea of doership is part of the, it's another idea, it's another belief, it's another system of whatever. And I think someone else could speak. Oh, sorry. Take it in turns.
Yeah, whatever it is, it seems very complicated, but it's only one. We only see one view at one time. So it's as simple as that. So whatever's appearing, that's what appears. And what's it appearing on? Well, you just have to label it as consciousness or space-like awareness, cognizing emptiness. But it's always just one view. And that's the cosmos.
Just a brief thing on it before I go.
You want to go?
Just very brief on what you said. As you said, like when there's just no thoughts popping up at all and there's just a view, there's no distinction between appearing on, anything being appeared upon, or the appearance is just one view. Because there's no thought about it, so there's just the experience of and no thought. Just
the thing for me that always hits very strongly is investigating time. If I get lost, if the thought arises and I can get lost in the thought again, or pulled by the thought or the body sensations or anything like that, time, really, when you truly investigate, there is only now. I travelled for 7 months in all those countries, up in the high mountains, in the ocean, underneath the ocean, always just now. There was no separation from now. And that, if there's only now, how can there be another? How can there be, the human brain has this thing that has this movie that runs about the story of us, but they see that really just as a survival thing. Life, everywhere, the movement and the expression of that, there is a movement, is, an apparent movement, I should say, is ever unfolding only now, ever changing only now. And that thing about time and the fact that there can never ever be anything except now, that is the most liberating thing. I am that. and so there is that, so there is no other. This is, I am that I am, that's just such a simple word, but really time is to me an incredible pointer. The concept of time and the idea of time and how we operate in time. But ever unfolding, intelligence, energy. Oh, so beautiful.
yeah, that's why I think there's no be, only do. That's just pure here. The here that seems purer. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to say something?
Yes, please.
Well, I think it's interesting that we want to come back to this present moment, this sense of completeness, because we recognize the suffering from resistance and from, well, there's all kinds of suffering, a suffering of change, suffering, where we're literally in pain and things like that. And so it's kind of like, so why are we kind of interested in this? We need to escape. We need to find something. We need to do something. We need to, there's this, we have this, there seems to be some kind of issue. And this is the answer to it. But it's like, for some people, it's very difficult to make that real or to make that work. Just knowing it, just being told, oh yeah, don't worry, just don't think and everything's fine, is great, and it's so simple. And if you're quite highly resonating with that, that'll work. But for most people, it's like, well, that doesn't do anything. What's changed? Nothing's changed. But I love the way when Kat talks about sort of the universe or this life or whatever's going on as being a pointer, and using it as a pointer back to what's experiencing it, and that's kind of like the release. So, and our essence, what we are, our nature, our true ultimate nature that is actually quite blissful and so peaceful and so complete. It's just nothing is required. Yet where most of us have been addicted to what's the next thing, what am I going to do now, what's happening, going and getting involved in, with the five senses, that just being basically addicted to that, instead of seeing that all of that can actually be the pointer back to being, back to back to that completeness, back to the bliss that we naturally are. And so that's when life, once we recognize that all the agitation, suddenly we realize that something's doesn't seem right with us, or we're annoyed about something or whatever, then that becomes like the teacher to point back, and it shows that there's some sort of chink in the way that we're operating that we can correct by allowing it to point back to where we are, and allowing to let that go. So a couple of things that are really helpful, I think, to do that, to let go and to get back when it's difficult, when it's a constant problem, is to breathe, just to have a moment where just take a few deep breaths, or just one breath, like a double breath, like and then a slow breath out, and just before we react. And once we've recognized something's annoying us or something like that, then we do that. It's a really wonderful way, and we notice it somehow takes the energy out of it, and then so many things we can let go of in such a simple way. Or another way is to just put the awareness into the extremity of our limbs, like our hands or our feet. So we find something that's annoying us, like we're stuck in traffic or something, we recognize that we're resisting that, and then just take the focus to the feet, and then to and then into the hands, and then into the limbs, and then back to the core. And somehow these are just two little things that might help just take out the tension and make it a little bit more visceral. So as we come back to just knowing that we are, and with respect to time, you were saying, it's amazing if you realize that even time isn't. So you've always there's always just this being that always is, and you always are and always have been. And suddenly you've got all the time in the world. And sometimes you might think, I'm doing this thing now, and it's annoying me because I should be doing that now, I'm wasting all this time. But there is no time, and so it's unlimited. So you'll never feel that again, because it's unlimited. And so there's nothing can be wasted. So anyway, these are some things that I find beautiful and inspiring. So hopefully, yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah, thank you, Christian. That was beautiful, and it's always refreshing to actually get the practical reminders. Like Bob always pointed out. Hello, you can pick and choose your seat. Oh yeah. Is it okay? Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm gonna grab the sofas apart from this one because this one is gonna be. No worries. Yeah, we just got just to put you on the same page. Beautiful sharing from Christian, and really building up on what Anita was saying about the timelessness of this present moment now. And the basic pointer which Bob would always summarize in his brilliant one-liner, have the five senses wide open and unfixated awareness. Five senses meaning, there is seeing happening, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. There is sensations in the body are happening. The breathing is happening. This is all happening presently, in the now, in the timelessness of this moment. All that is not happening. What am I going to do tomorrow? What have I done yesterday? What they think about me, what they have done to me, are all existing in the daydream or in the imagination, while the breathing's happening right now, my butt on the chair is happening right now, the hearing the sounds is happening right now. All of that brings that to that realization. There is only right now, and it's only here. Like Anita was traveling around the world, and she was always here. Yeah, the content of here. So relaxing, absolutely. Yeah, there might be a different room in which the here was happening.
Or under the ocean.
Or under the ocean. Yes. In the air, in the hot air balloon, anywhere. The content of the here, the decoration of the dream, when you are dreaming at night, you may be flying, or you may be fighting, or you may be another species, or you may be interacting with some alien creatures, or some half your mother, half your sister, or whatever it is that brain associate in the familiarity of this new environment. Is always here. It's always, this is the only experiential thing, the here. There is always here and always now. Did you want to add something?
Well, someone the other day explained it really well, that they were lost. They got lost in the forest.
Oh, yes.
And it was a really lovely story. They started to panic, and they realized, I'm actually here. I'm always here. Because the here-ness, or the thisness, is always there no matter what. And it was the same. And you could say, like, you could also say, I am now. Because I'm always that nowness describing this. It's the same description. And then you look back when you were 5 years old, and it was, you're now. And you look back when you were 7, it was now. And any age, any circumstance, anything, even when a memory is accessed, it's now. Even when a projection of some idea of the future comes up, it's now. It's never. Or you could turn this around and say, it's this. It's
this and that.
Yeah,
there's no this and that, just a this or a that.
Yes. So
different words,
just different ways of
describing.
Words are playing around, but it's always the same sense of presence. That's why there's terms like sense of presence or I amness.
Yeah, and Dean, I have a memory from when I was 6 months old. I know because there was a fire in the family house, so I was only 6 months old, and I have remembering that. It's the same. Maybe it's because it's always being recalled in the now, but there was no sense of difference of the I am that thing, that awareness or consciousness. No difference at 6 months of age or 68 years age. But maybe it's because it is recalled in the present moment. Who knows? That's just a mind game.
You can't see it in any other way other than now.
Yeah, that's right.
No matter Bob used to beautifully say, people used to come and say, we're going to practice being in the now and being in the moment and being more
sit
present.
down and meditate.
And Bob would beautifully say, try to get out of the now. Like, isn't that just brilliant? Like,
try and
get out of it in any way. Doesn't matter if you're thinking about, you're fully engrossed in tomorrow or yesterday or a memory. It's still this now appearing, and the pattern or the energy of is the appearance rather is appearing as a memory or as a but it's always now.
I remember having a panic attack a few years ago, and the mind was going insane, like I'm not safe. Never had one before, never had one since. And Bob and Kat invited me over, and Bob just said, look, Anita, are you unconscious are you unaware right now? And I think, oh, I'm not. The panic attack is happening in the middle of awareness.
Yeah.
Right there, right now. And it just took the whole power out of it. It was incredible. Yeah, it was so simple. Huh? So simple, so beautiful.
It is, yeah.
To kick them out.
Hi, Bren. We have you have options. Yeah.
You can lay down all of them.
And by the way, I just welcome Maureen. And what's the beautiful little girl's name? Anna. Welcome, Anna, and welcome, Bren. Pesto already did the welcoming. He came and said hi. The red cat is Pesto. He may come again to you. You don't have to be afraid of him. There is another one around. She may come and say hello as well.
You realise that that's fresh, but not today. I'm saying the cat's not actually there today. Just one wants to know.
No, they're really sweet cats. They're really gentle. And yeah, go for it. No? Yes? Okay, let me see if there's any other contribution. We have online community with us, and a couple of more people watching. And no, the last comment is from Gilbert, and it does, it's actually corrected the spelling. A simple signpost just point. It does not explain. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, we had a comment from Gilbert, and of course, Gilbert, I didn't say it's wonderful to have you with us, and thank you for your contributions always. And yes, it is a great point. It is so completely beyond language. The non-duality in its essence can only be experienced directly. It cannot be explained. It can be pointed to, but it cannot be put in words. If it could, it would have been done a couple of thousand years ago, and everyone would learn the words, and all the psychological suffering would be out the windows. But it doesn't work this way. It is not. It is a non-conceptual awareness. It isn't what can be told or taught. It is your essential nature. It is not a thing that can be given as a packet and added to the me. Because first of all, there is nothing to get. There is no me to get it. And of course, if it's not happening right now, then happening in time makes it an illusion, make it Maya. If it's not permanent right here, experienceable right now, then it's not real. Then it is an experience. That is something that comes and goes. And very often the sales pitch for so-called liberation or awakening or enlightenment is that this is a state, is a supreme state in which there is no anger anymore, and there is no sadness, and there is no displeasure and no hatred. It's only love. It's only cosmic union with the universe. And it is a beautiful description of incredibly nice, pleasant, ecstatic experience that if it's not happening right now, that's what it is, an experience. People report having that experience after taking some drugs or whatever. It's an experience. If it has starting point, it will have end point. It's not the reality. Reality by definition is that which never changes. And that which never changes cannot be an experience or a state, especially a state that is added to a me, which is also a state. The me is not there when you sleep at night. The me is not there when you are so completely taken by the beauty of a nature or so completely swapped by a drama of a movie. So the me is also a temporary appearance. That which never changes, and Dean and Anita mentioned that before, is the here, is the now. Whether you are 2-year-old or 5-year-old or 15-year-old, your experience of presence is here and now. And it never changes. Whether, anyone could even look into the non-existent past, because we have already established that time is only a mental construct. When Tony was saying, for Tony it is rather doing than being, because the ing comes later, like ink.
It's just activity.
Pure activity, yes. Do.
These loaded with so many ways and levels.
It's Still descriptions, yes.
And also, this one's mind, it loves to look at science.
Yeah.
And it's so magnificent that at the moment in physics, they're proving there is no such thing as time, or distance, or space. I think I'm really, it's incredible. So that through the intellectual process, they arrived at the same thing. And the fact that you can directly have experience of that, not through the mind, just through experiencing the now. I think that's revolutionary.
Yeah, like you said before, Kat, after Gilbert's thing, you said quite a good piece about, you can't discard the detail, you can't discard those, because they're just undistinguishable as well. They're just all part of the activity. And so, for example, we had this, good physics teacher when we were 16, and it was so easy for the whole, he was explaining how, you can't get a perfect ruler. A few hundred years ago, the ruler was even, less perfect. And then you could start, maybe you can, create a ruler that use matter to create something that you can measure in nanograms. Okay, it's more accurate, but there's always going to be a more accurate, and that was just, it was so easy for us to see there was no such thing as time, space, or that there was only attempts to create rulers, or put drops of mercury dropping at the correct rate. But even that's not going to be, there's a tinier way to to create that measurement. It's just a measurement, and a measurement's not real. And we all understood that easy peasy at 16, so I'm kind of get surprised when people don't seem to grasp that one. But, we just had a good physics teacher, maybe it was just,
Maybe it was
or we had
just your
physical
brain
brains.
funny.
Our brains were kind of wired that way, that was just sort of, I mean, all the patterns are different. They've all got different hang-ups and, going on. And sometimes it's in the detail that a detail might pop up, and then some hang-up might release, and more clarity happens, and more, less busyness happens, more stillness happens. And if you've never ever believed in a free will or a door, or, needing to, if you've only ever sort of seen that things are just occurring, although, I've had different theories about that. A mechanical theory, it's just matter and motion, and then they crash, and then that happens, and then that happens, and this is how the whole universe is. Nothing's ever going to have been different, so there's no regret, because you would need a catalyst from outside the universe, and I'm including the universe in the first place, whether that works or not. But so it was never going to be anything different. Now is like it is now, because everything that came together. But then later on, somebody could come along and say, oh no, but there's whatever the next theory after mechanics was, which is, something has an atom has a spin, and it goes that way, and then if it changes, the opposing atom over there changes, or they just pop up randomly. So that's how this moment ended up this way, and then there could be another theory in the future that humans, pop up in human spaces, that also explains why now looks the way it is. But the point is, there would only ever be this now. So there's no regret for anything that might have been. That's just another enjoyable, sometimes stress sparking activity. Sometimes a release creates a release. It just, none of it's to be discarded, like you said before. It's to be dismissed, or saying, oh no, you can't get more clarity that way, or it's going to be different for the different types out there. And but if you've never seen you having a set of rules to follow, and needing to do things, and needing to whip yourself on the back if you don't do it, then whatever's in the next moment is just only ever going to be what's in that moment. And I forget where I needed to, I do get lost a lot. It was related to a major point. No, there's a, I just made one of those things out there, one of those misinterpretations that we often have, that makes it all seem too mystical and impossible, but actually it's quite clear. If I can remember this point. Well, there are no decisions. So like if you've only ever seen this moment of an occurrence of some kind of, and then you sort of see that there probably is no ultimate pattern. You know, even if there is some ultimate pattern, it's still just the same stuffness. It's all the same, made of the same things, just energy. So you don't need a blueprint, you know. Even if there was a blueprint, it was still, this moment was still just the same. And the point's not coming back. But yeah, if you see it that way, like it was only ever going to happen like this, and then only going to happen like this, and only ever going to happen like this, it does mean that there's one thing that we usually suffer with that we don't need, but it's not coming back. It was something said before, yeah.
You know, I remember Bob saying some time ago that somebody said, "Oh yeah, that's all well and good, Bob. Yeah, that's like a lot of bullshit. But what about if you saw a woman being beaten up on the street over there? Then what are you going to do?" Yeah. And it's a good one, isn't it? He said, "Well, I'll let you know when it happens."
Yeah.
I'm not going to stress over it now. I'm just so when something has to occur, it occurs. The action is taken. The thing needs to be happen. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter any which way. So when you've only ever seen life as just happening how it happens, it's never meaningful that something's needed to happen, or there needs to be some kind of perfection, or something will arise if you need it, because those things don't exist. There's just no such thing as needing it to be one way or another. The next moment it's going to be how it is. What's the point of thinking it needs to be something? Where is that thing that it needs to be like? It's just completely never going to even be anything ever. It's like when people say, "Oh, you're so brave coming from New Zealand with like no income, money, whatever, to like move here and staying in youth hostels at the age of 46 or whatever with all these random strangers and no lockup." No, it was just like there was popped up, "Oh, it looks like this is going to happen, I think." And then it was like, "Oh, that's going to be uncomfortable. There's a lot of like pattern here around. This is uncomfortable, that's uncomfortable," showing up all the time. But this is happening, It's just, what's this about it? There's no such thing as bravery, It's going to happen. There's going to be reactions that might be fear and bunches of other stuff. But you have to think you're doing something in order to think you're brave. Yeah.
So another way of like expressing this kind of stuff is like, there's what is like the mind is time itself. So, and what is the mind really like? So there's no time. So there's this eternal nowness that's constantly there, and so if the mind is time, what is that? What is so what we've been shown is a bunch of thoughts actually create time. It's a joke. How can a thought create time? It's not even possible. But yet they believed in the thoughts, and then there's a thought, there's a gap, there's another thought, there's a story about this and that and the other. All of a sudden, there's this sense of timeless. But no mind, no time. Like there really is no. So, but I think what might happen is once it starts to become obvious, then the wiring, the robotic wiring and neuro, whatever you want to call it, but I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is just another way of explaining things, might start to cut out so that there's no belief in a future of attaining, of seeking, of hoping, of wishing. The spontaneity becomes so self-evident, like all the time. It's that's all there is. And it's all that it can ever be, and always that's all that ever was. It will be, and yeah.
And many people I met while I was in India, people have had awakenings and then gone on to understand spaciousness and things. They often find their memory starts to become very unreliable because they don't live in the memory. They don't. A lot of those thoughts about the past drop, which is an interesting thing, which I think might, like you say, incorporate some kind of rewiring or something. But that is often a thing about memory.
It's incredible stuff, this memory. Like, it's so unreal. If I ask you to think about your mother and I serve you this beautiful warm drink while I ask you that question, all of a sudden you may associate this incredible, lovely memory. But if I give you a gesture, think about your mother in another way, you could conjure up all sorts. What
Yes,
friggin' hell
that's
is
right.
real? What's real? Which one am I going to
Yeah.
believe?
And
Who's
as
the believer?
Yeah.
Whose memory is so
And as
whimsical?
I've said before, I came from a family of 9 children, and we can think of or talk or discuss an event apparently from previous time. Everybody remembers it differently.
Yes. Yes.
It's totally
And the only
to
one
do
that's
with-
true is yours. But it's
usually,
not.
like
But it's
usually.
not. It's not.
And that's the thing is, the human mind has this experience of this existence here. It has these kind of slots of an apparent time and a history, but we can't actually live except anywhere now. There is imagery or whatever, and we don't have to decide why that is. We don't have to speculate about it. It just is. There's just now. You can only ever live now. There's maybe an accumulation, apparent accumulation, or whatever that is. And you can discuss that ad nauseum, and a lot of neuroscientists and stuff do. But still, the direct experience of life is only now.
Yeah, and the experience, like, the only thing that's been forgotten here is, like, I go to Bob's birthday party and there's people that I knew well a couple of months earlier from Bob's and their whole background, and I just completely even forgot their, didn't know who they were anymore. That's the only sort of thing. But it's just the package will come up maybe with a bit of freak out as part of the package that's popping up from wherever it pops up from. And, a bit of a freak out. Oh, that's not very good. Not, just not remember who they were. And then next time, what pops up instead is like a couple of tricks to sort of make it appear that you haven't forgotten them, and then there might be a pop up where it just doesn't matter any which way, and there's just the scan and nil result search happening. It's just some packages of stuff pop up.
Something that Dean said before reminded me of what Douglas.
Closer to the mic.
Okay. Something that Douglas Harding said. Douglas Harding.
That's right, your mouth would be there. That's right.
From the glass. Just fill it more. Find the glass.
Oh yeah, give a quick explanation of Douglas Harding while you look for your glasses.
Yeah,
He was Bob's friend, one of Bob's friends from the UK. Bob actually helped Douglas Harding to come to Melbourne to give a couple of speeches because he really liked him. He really liked that headless way idea. Douglas was a few years older than Bob. He died at 98. But they were the same age. Bob had some funny stories, remembering dropping him at the airport at friend's Rolls Royce and locking the key in a running gas car. But the guy was really sweet, so they did know each other. Normally, I would stop, bringing all the other people into the meeting, but because Douglas was Bob's friend, let him
I think
speak.
Cole knew him too. Do you live in a big house in England or something?
Yeah, so what Dean mentioned before was how the perception changes according to what someone else is saying. So this is about trusting what we see. And the stance that Douglas Harding takes is the appearance. The appearance is that's everything. That's what we're talking about as the consciousness that everything appears in, cognizing emptiness. This is what he says. It's a little quote taken from a book called Look for Yourself. And he says, the more steadily I gaze at the one that's nearest and clearest, the more it turns out to be the dearest. More me than myself, the resource that never really lets me down, the wide awake one that, though homely and obvious and transparent through and through, fills me with worship and wonder at the mystery of its self-origination. Who shall set limits to the bright blessings that can arise from our growing willingness to trust what we see instead of what we're told to see?
Yeah, how sweet, huh? How sweet. Everything you look at is your essential nature. And we have another good one from Gilbert here. He says, the mind cannot divide reality. And yes, it can only seem to divide reality. Yes, so he says, the mind cannot divide reality. It can only appear to divide itself. It does that through the use of words, labels, images, and memory. Words, ideas, feelings, and emotions are all transient. They come and go. That which is real does not change. The so-called mind cannot process no thing, so it adds descriptions in what seems to be an attempt to grasp something real or manufacture something real. A dream of being a person is just a dream. And now he's paraphrasing Nisargadatta. Your problem is that you like one part of the dream and not another. And James says, if you take Nisargadatta's statement, no one was born, then who is asking anything? Yes, and thank you, Bob, for a beautiful contribution. And just a word, yes, again, the descriptions and divisions that mind is doing, that is a good way to put it, because there is no person doing it. Person is a dreamer. So if the division happens, again, some people may see it as the division and labeling and clouding the silence. Other people may have the heart open and may resonate. And that resonation is what Bob used to offer for 46 years of his life. And that resonation through pointers shared in the group, different ways of describing what is beyond description. That resonation is really what we are all about. It's not about listening to the words. It's not about picking on pointers or labeling labels, or labeling, or dividing the divided, or judging the mind, because mind is insentient. It's just a piece of software which runs by life. It's always life. It's life behind every word, every action, every behavior. There's nothing without that life essence. Nothing can live without attention or that life essence. So recognizing what is beyond the words, recognizing what is behind the pointer, the life, like Ross was quoting Douglas, the one animating behind whatever you're looking at. You're looking at the night sky, you're looking at the mic, you're looking at each other. There is the same life to be recognized. Whatever the mind has to say, label, word, divide, it does it only because of the presence behind it, because of the Satchitananda aliveness behind it. Without it, nothing is. Recognize the source, recognize that everything that appears is real in its essence. It is only Maya in a way it appears. It's real in its essence. Every pointer, if you resonate, will take you beyond words. If you don't, well,
just got to comment on that before I forget. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, he just said about the mystery of wasn't the mystery of self origination. I might have misinterpreted, but because it might have just been a fun thing popping up. But yeah, even purer than that. There's really when there's no thoughts arising, there's no such thing as any kind of self origination of anything. There's just like you said before, the view. That's it. And I think you wanted to say something more about.
No. So, naked awareness. No thought. Just awareness. So if there's no thought, just naked awareness. So there's no object and there's no subject as well. It's just one until some entity arises, and there's subject and object, and the world is full of, 1,000 things. But when there's no subject and object, it's just pure awareness. Everything's just one.
And also I think it's important to note that I am that is not separate to mind chatter and body sensations, and that still exists.
Yeah.
That is still part of the experiencing, and that there's no some changed state that changes that arising. That all arises in the consciousness. So it doesn't mean that the mind's going to shut up and that all your bills will get paid and all that sort of stuff, or you don't have any more bills. No, life still does lifing.
And there's no different experience from the experience of a ghost to the experience of a bus at the bus stop. It's just all whatever.
Yeah, but the expectation that
yeah.
But there seems to be something that happens for all of us who've had those experiences, and we've all had them, I think, because it's a natural state. Is I know that I'm, there's something that's witnessing all of that. It's not even witnessing, something that is experiencing all of that. There's a consciousness or awareness where all of that happens in, not that is happening within, yeah. So
it's all assumption.
yeah, that's right. So that's right. So, but when for this one here, the awakening, when the whole mind dropped for some days, and there was nothing but unbounded consciousness, nothing, very little sensation from the body even for some days, and then of course it all started to seep back in. But having seen that at a profound level, it can never be unseen again. I did years of meditation and yoga. I mean, 40 years. Never had that experience. Oh, yeah, no, never had that experience. So once seen, it can't be unseen. And it is the natural state. So we all have experiences of it.
Yeah, I know someone who's done like a lot of meditation every day for a long time, but I think it was during that, although, been attending non-duality and obviously getting some clarity, droppings and clarity. It was in the middle of meditation that he also had 2 weeks or a week and a half of that experience as well, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, it just can come from different places. Yeah,
it can. Yeah. That's right. But, yeah, I agree.
I have a comment here. This is from James. Can pure awareness ask a question? And this is a beautiful question, because this is again a question that kind of almost begs for differentiation between awareness and consciousness and all that. Is there anything that the pure potentiality cannot do? Obviously, it's a pure potentiality. So it has a pure potentiality of doing absolutely everything, including asking questions, including appearing as a dream. But yes, as it vibrates, it appears to be the other, to be something else. It seems to need a human body with the capacity of reasoning and the capacity of asking questions. So is the pure awareness ever asking a question? Not directly, but it is through the vehicle of that dream, through the dream character in the dream. It asks questions, because if there is only one, you can call it awareness, that one is behind everything. And that one is behind doing and being. And whichever you want to call it, doing, of course, is detectable. And being is not detectable, but is undeniable. I mean, if you want to deny the being, you still have to be here to deny it. And it will happen within the presence that I am to hear your denial of being. But it is undetectable. Undetectable, but undeniable. Doing is totally detectable because it's transient. So that's really two aspects or two ways in which that pure potentiality expresses itself. It expresses as the Shiva consciousness, which is the static aspect, pure being, undetectable. You can't say whether it is there or whether it isn't, but you try and stop being and you realize that, oh shit, I don't know how to do that. can't do that. She is still being that is trying. And the Shakti, which is the doing, which is the asking questions, which is discussing, expressing as words, as images, as stories, as physical objects, as sound, sights, light, anything and everything. One essence, one expressing as everything, vibrating, shaping, forming, patterning. I see you have the mic.
No, I'm just holding it.
Yeah,
But like you're saying, like another way is like a thought or a word is a vibrating pattern with a particular tone and resonance. But a thought is a more subtle vibrating pattern. And so a question is a thought, or a string of thoughts. So it's really these and these patterns, whatever, if it's a thought, if it's a word, or if it's a thought, they're energy vibrating at certain frequencies, or whatever you want to call it. What is that? That's the emptiness, actually, the nothingness, actually vibrating. So in essence, no matter how profound and deep any question can be, it's actually nothing. It is completely empty. And yet it appears as a nothing, as the Shiva Shakti dance, as everything you just explained, as nothing appearing as something, in the form of a question, in the form of a word, in the form of a string of logical understandings and concepts, and furthermore, goes on. But that's
absolutely. Tony and Christian. Oh, sorry, you can give the other one. And
you go first.
I was just going to add to what Dean was saying about questions, how when we're curious about something and then we actually get the answer, and then what happens? It's like, it's just gone into the vapor. It's like it means nothing anymore once we have the answer. Or like, so what was the point of the question in the first place? And also with curiosity, like you want to see, we see something in the corner of our eye and think, oh, that person might be attractive or unattractive or interesting or uninteresting, or something that grabs our attention. We want to check. And then we check. And then we get the answer, whatever it is, it is or it isn't. And then what? Then it's back to nothing. So it's just like this, yeah.
Yeah, the notion popped up here that, really the way the perception here is that the bee is already in the dance. So like so it's kind of flippant obvious if something's dancing that it exists. So you don't need the bee. And then I think that's why you just got the do. And the people like load in a lot of extra stuff into the bee. Oh, is it awareness or consciousness, or what are they? And is it an origin? Is it a blueprint? What's all this extra stuff? But really, if you got the do, it's flippant obvious. There's no void. There's nothing at all. Which Bob used to say, no void. There is no void. We're saying that. We're not saying that there is a. Yeah. So I like that, wherever Bob got it from or whatever. But I like. Yes. That was the only part that ever seemed to make sense here. Like if you've been very simple. So he just got the dance and forget the bee. Who's the bee? Shiva, is it? Shiva. Yeah, let's just go with the dance. Let's Shakti will do, and just forget. Because you can't have a dance without. If there's only nothing in the universe. Yeah, if there's only nothing in the universe at all. If nothing ever existed ever, then you don't have the Shakti. Shakti's part and parcel of actually existing. So, yeah. So it's just the energy. The vibrations, and that's it. Simple.
And I have you want to say something else? I have a comment here from Gilbert again. He says, being seduced by I am the doer is the dream. That's a really good way to put it. Being seduced by idea that I'm the doer. I am asking the question. I am doing this, that, and the other. I am checking on someone, or, whatever it is. Being seduced by I am the doer is the dream. Who is dreaming about doing? Me? Is the me real? No. End of story. But of course, it can't be just vocalized. Yeah, me is not real, I believe it. No, it has to be really, really taken to heart, verified, checked for oneself, and see if there really is no me. Because if there is no me, there is no story. And yet, speaking happens, walking, breathing, seeing, hearing, all of it happens. But there is no me that takes any credit or any ownership of it. Asking questions may happen. Changing diet may happen. Falling sick, getting healthy, all of it. But now there is no one claiming credit for it, because if you really check, you really look, you go to the heart of hearts, which is not going anywhere, it's always here. And you see if there really is any need for any agency, if there is anyone that needs to do the heartbeat for the heart to beat. And the answer is obvious. There's no one doing it, and yet it is happening. There is no one moving the planet around the sun, and yet it is happening. There is no one who is switching on the sun so it radiates warmth, and yet it is happening. There is no one breathing, and it is happening. So the same way, there is no one seeing, and seeing is happening. No one hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, speaking, thinking, dreaming, planning, ruminating. There is no one even resenting. There is only an illusion of agency, and that is the dream. And thank you, Gilbert. That's beautifully put. Christian? No? Oh,
Yes, someone else?
Someone?
I can say something. I'll try.
Go for it.
Yeah, that concept of self is very interesting with respect, because like I used to be this person, or if one of the things that some yogis are recommended to do is to leave their country and family and go and live in a completely foreign land. And so you can imagine if you just dropped off somewhere like you were talking about before, and no one knows you, like what's that? Like, did the people that you left really know you? And at what point are you that person? Whether you're young, middle-aged, or old, or have these qualities or those qualities. Yeah, it's all just made up. But also with respect to the space thing, one thing I find quite interesting to contemplate is if there was no form, if you imagine that everything is just space and there's one little speck in space, you only know space because of that speck. But if you take away the speck and it's all space, then you can't really conceive space because there's no relationship, there's no direction from this or that. And so Kat alluded to this last week quite a lot with respect to interdependence and how everything is interdependent, and it just arises, it manifests in that way, yet obviously there's no realness to it beyond the fact that this awareness that non-dually is aware, and that's the ultimate, or that's the reality, and beyond that it's all just manifestation and interdependence and dancing. Yeah.
Beautiful. And the dance it is, when you actually look, when you look without the looker, when you look without the sense of me, how does it relate to me, what I like, what I don't like, how is it important, how does it relate, how does it translate? That seeing without referring anything and everything to the reference point, the dancing without dancer, like they say in those esoteric circles, dance as if no one looking. There is no one, and then that no one is looking through the thousands of eyes from the sky, from the oceans, from the every single form. It's a big brother. It's everywhere and everything and no thing at the same time. And then you see, without that referencing, without that order of importance, oh, this is important, this is less important, this is relevant, this is not relevant, this is happening to my family or my country or my body or my mind, therefore it is important. And that, to a certain extent, is unavoidable in the dream, because the way the body mind is conditioned, it is conditioned to provide the software, the narrative is conditioned to provide safety, and naturally it also relates it in the voice of a commentator. It comments on danger. So straight away there is an appearance of, oh, look at this is dangerous. Oh, don't trust that one. Oh, look at the government, they after you, they're gonna get you. That narrative is just part of the makeup of the vehicle through which the life essence experiences and expresses itself. But when you see it for what it is, are you gonna believe it? And is there a you to believe it? Because again, the attention may still habitually follow the narrative. But as Anita was saying, you can't unsee it anymore. And Bob was also using that description. It is not the same. You know, it still appears that there is a me engaged in the dream that is defending ideas, and there is having preferences and favorites and likes and dislikes. That dream character, it still feels like it is me or mine. It still appears blue, just like the sky and the sea, even though it does not have any color.
Like you're saying, the action can happen before the words. What are those experiments?
You mean a Libet experiment? Oh yeah.
No, Kat knows about it. I don't know. You know about how someone did some experiments and found that the movement was happening for the.
Oh yes, that's the thought experiment of Benjamin Libet that was proving really an absence of free will. It was really just showing that the neurocircuits in the brain that are responsible for the action, for moving the arms or legs or doing whatever, the fueling, getting the oxygen running to do the action, are already originating the action, and the narrative comes half a second later to report on it. So it really is like a commentator, the narrative in the mind that feels like this is me, this is my thoughts, this is me speaking. It's just a commentator on what is already happening, what's already been originated. If the decision has arose on the chemical level in the body, half a second later the commentator says, I made the decision, or I made the choice. But it really is the way, again, this is a neuroscience, which is another belief system, it's another story, another explanation. Direct experience is always the direct experience. And you can see, without even knowing the Libet experiment, that you are discovering your next thought. You are not thinking your next thought.
Your experience here has been a notion popping up, and half a second later the words start to appear out here, like one word after the other, and get heard as well. Ding, 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 ding. Or known, but not heard, but as if they heard. Ding, ding. And they can even stop midway. But yeah, so it's just a package, and there's no way of knowing what comes first and what. Even if you see little lights in an experiment, I haven't looked at that neuroscience to see, but I'm sure if I did, I'd say, oh, there's a flag there. How are they saying that about that's a leap there? I can see all the leaps and assumptions.
Yeah, which may work if you've got brain damage and you want to have it repaired. I mean, yeah, it's all in context.
Yeah, that's a good experiment.
Yeah, it's all in context. But the thing is, I want to recall Ramana Maharishi experience, who was not in the body. Well, he wasn't. His consciousness superseded the body directly, where he stopped eating and, looking after the body, and then some sadhu found him and took him up the mountain. But later on, he came back into the bodily experience, and he was profoundly in the body. He helped build give directions for the ashram. Ramana Maharishi, the great non-dual guy. So he was giving directions. He was getting angry in the kitchen, and throwing things, and he was absolutely human, having a completely human experience. But his spaciousness is what everybody talks about. So so the human experience is not denied or not rejected. It is. So there is just something else which doesn't suffer that. Yeah.
In that sense,
like conventional reality relative to ultimate reality. So we don't deny conventional reality.
Could be.
Yeah. So once we see interdependence, then we can see cause and effect. If you behave this way, if you go and kick a wall, and you're obviously going to hurt your foot. So you can't really deny that. That's cause and effect. It's a very simple explanation of it, but that's conventional reality. That is interdependent and definitely arises as a result of things, and as what our minds are habituated to, and what manifests as a consequence. But so when we go back into the ultimate reality, it's like we're sort of dissolving it, and so the more freedom we really experience with respect to our sort of fluidity of mind and relaxed states and sort of spaciousness that we love, because it's our ultimate nature, it's our perfected and always there state. that loves to be. So the more we are that, the more sort of comfortable we are, but the more we're locked in the interdependent thing and thinking that it's real, that sort of the more we seem to be agitated and suffer and so on.
But that is the point of loss of suffering.
Yeah.
Knowing, there's a knowingness or a beingness which doesn't suffer. It witnesses things occurring, but the suffering drops. The body relaxes, the mind relaxes.
Also, less suffering can occur while in the human state too. So if there's been, a pattern, processes of patterns dissipating and triggers dissipating and stuff like that. Like, I know someone who has, experienced, reasonable terms of no thing, but when back in the human space, they're like, they're fucking Nazi, whatever, very, very extreme. And then when they are those who are, perhaps more evolved in the dual sense, which basically means that in that moment a bit of dissipation occurred, and the next moment, some dissipation occurred of a pattern, a triggerable pattern. They might be, oh bugger, that pattern did that again, how annoying, So also the human behavior can be very different. Yeah, so this is just another activity that occurs and creates less misery, which is different from that no misery when no thoughts arise. So, yeah, but they could converge there, or whatever. There's definitely yeah, but I think it's either binary. It's either on or off. There's either thoughts or no thoughts. So there's either reactions going on or not.
It's something that sees that on and off.
Yeah.
That knows that.
That's more like a memory that pops up later, I think. I know that sense of like most of the time being pretty like, whoa, that's extra heart racing when that reaction to that person occurred and that word came out. There's and I'm sure there's tiny moments in there that are in the duality and tiny moments and sections that are definitely the memory layers of no thoughts coming up during that time. During that, during whatever.
Up in the idea of time.
Yeah, but then there's no, forgetting that because I don't believe in that anyway. It doesn't come up at all as an idea. But it's just like the memories that pop up a bit after are of no thoughts were arising, and this was the image that was there. And also then there might be a little memory of, definitely in the bubble at that moment, there was no awareness going on there. There was just, this is annoying, there wasn't like noticing these things more happening with a less, I don't know, fuzzy view. It's hard to say if you're trying not to make any assumptions whatsoever in your description. Yeah.
You got the.
No, I think we're just wrapping it up. Yeah. Like Bob would start a meeting with start with the fact that you're already that. So you may as well finish with the meeting with start with the fact that you're already that again. And that is like everything. And that is seeing consensual reality or this kind of reality or different layers of reality. There is only, or the unconscious and the conscious, or being in this way, or seeing things the right way, or seeing things clearly, or seeing things unclearly. Everything is that. And yes, there is apparently this psychological suffering or this seduction that becomes a doer, as Gilbert mentioned, or whatever way you want to look at it. But it is all that appearance in that. And all that Bob was saying here is like recognize that fact from the very beginning. Don't deviate into the world of infinite. The play can easily absorb and seemingly absorb a seemingly person, which there isn't one. So how can a seemingly person seemingly be absorbed into a seeming play? Like, it's all crazy, really, and it's all fun. So just finish with the
No,
last
no,
words.
no. Yeah, there is actually, it's amazing because it's not the first time today, Dean, that you actually answer or commented brilliantly on the question that you didn't even hear yet. That is another statement from Gilbert, or question from Gilbert. Who accept the divided mind with all its stories as being something real? And that was brilliant. Obviously, I mean, who accepts? Looking for the who is already a wrong question. Realizing that there is no one there and finding the evidence that obviously there's no one there who needs to, or who is ought to, or who can or cannot accept or reject anything. Accepting, rejecting, expressing, not expressing, speaking, silence, all of it is happening within that field that you are. And we have Bradley also saying, when you do what you done before, baby, you are walking through the stage set of your own memory and not the ever fresh. And I just want to say, about, again, Christian mentioned the convention reality and all that, and it's lovely. Those are all beautiful descriptions and lovely helpful concepts which are very highly appreciated. But the way Bob would put it, and this was so elegant, he was such a master of the one-liners. He would say, life is expressing through every creature in its unique qualities. The bird has the eyesight and it can fly. It obviously has the limitations, but those were their capacities. The tiger creates spots, grows spots, stripes on their fur, so it protects it, so it's invisible as a predator. It can mingle, leopard can mingle within the shadows of the leaves when it goes on the trees. And human pattern, life expressing through that human pattern, has the capacity to think and to imagine the future and the past, and to dream, the daydream, the night dream. All of those capacities are utilized by life in the pattern. So obviously, exclusion of the limitation of the human pattern is a ridiculous idea. There is no one excluding anything here. Everything is the part of the expression of that field through the pattern. Just like, when you have a small car, you may be parking better, but your visibility may be affected. If you have a bigger car, you may bang the top of it over the bridge or something, but the visibility on the road will be. So obviously the pattern through which the life essence expresses affects the expression. If you are the bird, you can sing, but you're not going to be having a discussions, non-dual discussion. If you are the dog, you can have a fantastic smell, but you're not going to be, again, dwelling in the past. So that, okay, go for it. Yeah, and I would absolutely love to thank everyone who contributed to the meetings for keeping it alive and keeping it alive. that was the wish. Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.